This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
For the past 9 years, this man has argued for marijuana and against religion. He has maintained that children are not innocent and that God doesn't write books. He's come out for mad cow disease and against suing tobacco companies. He claims girls hate each other, being drunk is funny, and the Olympics are gay. Bill Maher is too extreme. Too extreme for Hollywood, too extreme for TV.
In a world with no entertainment news, finally, The Daily Show.
When we got the studio, we realized it came with a couch, but no one knew what to do with it. So Jimmy and Maynard said, why not let celebrities sit on it and talk? Bingo! You never know where the conversation's gonna go. It airs on Tuesday nights on ABC, Wednesdays at 8:30. It's on Mondays on CBS. He's opening up on Fridays. It's in bookstores right now. It's in theaters now. It's in theaters now. Theaters right now. Where else are people gonna see celebrities?
The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, Monday through Thursday at 11, only on Comedy Central.
We have the mic of truth on his side. Rich song.
Thanks once again for having me on the show. I love doing your show. You always have so many interesting Thank you.
Most applause since the Ultimate Warrior left.
I love it. I can get used to this.
It's a long time coming. I just love how we were just like, we got to talk about some of these variety shows. I even got begged for it by some podcasts I've been on that talk about acting once at the movies. They're like, Cam, have you not done that one on this yet? I'm like, trust me, we've been wanting to do it for a while. It's hard.
I know.
It didn't help that there were recent times. I'm like, I kind of want to talk less about it. And it's like, okay, everything's boring again, socially, economically. I think I'm ready to talk about it now.
All right. And so much.
Rocking the cradle. So we're going to just do kind of a brief outline on each. Just we were thinking, hey, let's talk about Bill Maher's talk show, Real Time, since he's had since '03, and then talk about the Young Turks, which has been around since '02, formed by a bunch of comedians and political commentators.
Turks.
And then just briefly hint on the Daily Show, Comedy Central's hit 1996 to present day satire mock news station. But first off, I mean, Rich, you obviously have an appreciation of just all the various inner workings of media, commentators, sports, genre actors, and just guerrilla filmmaking, to name many. But why do you think you were just kind of drawn to all three of these doing just off kilter, just obviously we'll start with Maher because that's the one you're big on, but like they each have a round table and they each do just wacky skits that are just both the answer to everything wrong ways on how to report the news and open up a discussion with different sides. But how did you become ready for that in a post dial-up internet age?
Well, I could tell you, I've been a fan of Bill Maher when he was doing Politically Incorrect, not on ABC, but on Comedy Central. He originally started in Comedy Central, then it went to ABC.
Big mistake.
And then he got fired. And then
Right.
actually him getting fired was the best thing in the world, because Politically Correct I enjoyed, but they needed ratings. Well, first of all, they needed sponsors. So every 10 minutes they would have a commercial. They really couldn't get into deep discussions because they would, all right, time to take a commercial break. And he couldn't really have the guests he wanted on because he needed more popular stars to get the ratings. So it was people that really couldn't have a good
I remember that.
with. Yeah.
Did you ever see the one where he had Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla? They were promoting the Man Show, and same kind of deal. Like, them and a bunch of other feminists start bickering, and then time to go to commercial. I'm like, well, once again, I will never know what fathom there unless you get either of them on a talk show talking about what the hell happened.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I did enjoy the show. And I always, this is why out of the 3 shows you mentioned, I like him the best. And we can talk about the other shows after, but he is one of the only people I know that actually has people that he disagrees with, and he's not afraid to have them on the show. He likes to debate. He doesn't shoot them down. He's not condescending to them. When people boo when they come out, he'll say, you know what? They had the balls to come on the show. Let them talk. And I love that because, and even sometimes they'll say something like, I agree with you. And people will boo him. He goes, what? I can't disagree against something that, because as people who know, probably everybody knows, he's in the center, but he's more to the left. But everybody's like, well, when did you become more of the right? He goes, when the left went crazy. And I agree with him because I hate the extreme right and I hate the extreme left. And he is one of the only people that are more to the left that can bring that up without, because you'll never hear anybody on MSNBC, you'll never hear Rachel Maddow, or even in the old days, Keith Olbermann, either having somebody that they disagree with or somebody, they'll never say, an example is Rachel Maddow was on the Bill Maher one time, and she said something about, this is when Obama was president. You can't say that. He goes, he's not your boyfriend. I can say whatever I want. Why are you so, he's my president. Yes, he's my president, but he's not perfect. And I love the fact that he can see the good and bad on both sides. And I think he's fair. And he has guests now, we're talking about real time, where he'll have politicians that are actually involved in all this, and then they can give their perspective. A perfect example is last week he had Mark Esperon, who was the Secretary of Defense for Trump.
Oh, that's right.
And I loved it, though, because I actually liked the guy. He let the guy speak. The guy did have some good things to say. And he was like, what it was like working for him. And he obviously doesn't like him and thinks he's horrible for office and would not, he goes, I can deal with bad policies, like with Joe Biden. That's what he's talking about, because I can't deal with this. But imagine, like, a perfect example of what I'm saying, whereas other shows wouldn't let them have somebody with opposing views on, is MSNBC. They hired a Republican and all these people like Joe Scarborough and all these different people were saying, oh my God, get her off the air. Why? It's called freedom of speech. If you don't like her, have her on your show and say, what the hell are you thinking? You think the election was stolen? Why do you think that? And then just basically put her in her place instead of banning her from the shows and saying, censoring her, saying that's just going to make them look bad. I thought the left was all about freedom of speech, but now there's freedom of speech until it's something they disagree with. Oh,
CNN's a total joke too. It used to be like something for everybody, and now they've been kind of trying to piggyback on the same thing. I'm like, so the biggest issue is you have people who aren't going anywhere in the conversation, and they're not deep enough. And it is like a CNN, especially, is a joke. Like, they have people who are just like, oh, we got to be polite, the Don Lemons. And then they have the Santorums who are all about just hot takes, with baseless accusations. It's like, so you are encouraging even more just venom, just a swamp filled with just unorganized hot takes that are just to incite more and more anger and cheap ratings. So yeah, I have pretty much blocked out a lot of it just because it really is a fucking joke at this point. Like, just people who shouldn't even be on the air. Like,
yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's why I have to say real time is probably for those kinds of shows, real time is my favorite, because he will have guests on with opposing views, and he lets them debate it out. Like you talked about on ABC when all right, let's go to a commercial. It's an hour long. There's no commercial breaks. There's no censors. They can say whatever they want. He even said when he got fired, he goes, "It was the best thing. Is now I'm actually on a channel that I watch." That was one of his first statements back in 2003, and the show has just gotten better and better. I mean, he's been doing it for years since, like I said, I think I remember seeing him in Comedy Central in 97, 90, somewhere around there. So he's been doing this show for a long time, real time, as you mentioned, since 2003. And I think this is the best format. And I don't get all my news from there, but I do like the fact that I could see people who were actually doing it or in the Senate, in Congress, they're on the show, and they're not speaking hypothetically. They're speaking from experience of what they're seeing going on. And it's like, I learned a lot just watching that show once a week. But as I said, it's not like I turned it, like he made a comment one time, said, a lot of people say they get all their news from my show. He goes, that's fucking sad. And it's true.
I do remember that. So just as a brief scoop, people who he's had on multiple times, he's had Fareed Zakaria. He's
Zakara.
Zakara, Andrew Sullivan, Ariana Huffington, Bernie Sanders,
Salman Rushdie. Joe Biden was on when he was a senator in Delaware. That was politically incorrect, though, I think. But Biden used to be on all the time. I used to love Biden on that show. He was. No, you know what's funny about this? He made people used to always talk about, like, this is back then in the show. He goes, people always say that, you go on too long. He goes, some answers aren't yes and no. Sometimes I want to hear an explanation. He goes, that's what I like about you. So I mean, I don't know your opinions, but I actually like Biden. And we don't have to get into that. And it's
I'm pretty much, I'm going to vote for him. I don't think he's doing anything he's supposed to do, but it's pretty much it. You get two choices, or you can throw it away to, the Green Party or someone else.
RFK.
Oh God. Yeah, that's going to be a cluster. But I mean, he's had so many other awesome comedians on there too. Paul F. Tompkins, Richard Belzer, Larry Miller.
Well, let's stop right there for a second. Paul F. Tompkins years ago used to do a segment on the show. I don't know if you remember that.
Vaguely. And Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, I remember, was in like the first year vaguely when I shouldn't have been watching it.
Because what's this show? Is it House Party? Who's the guy from House Party? Remember,
Kid and Play. Yeah.
Kid wrote something. Reed is his name. Kid Reed. He wrote the theme song for them. He and Bill Maher are good friends, and he wrote the theme song for Real Time.
I have a copy of the older theme somewhere. It was just an awesome remix. And he's had so many other awesome activists on there, like Chris Rock, Tim Robbins, Janine Garofalo, and I think we'll talk about what he does now, but like back then, like somewhere in between the 2010s, I think he was just really good at just cutting off the conversation when it was getting out of hand. And I remember when he had more of Trump's cronies on, and Jim Jeffries was on there, and he was like, "Oh bollocks, just stop talking. Let me get my spoon," or something. They knew kind of just when it's like, okay, this is a lost fucking cause. There are times though when he will have some guests on, and I'm like, I don't think he's going to get anything out of this person. Why did they even come on here? Are they that clueless, or do they just need the publicity? Like, why do Ann Coulter or even Keith Olbermann need to come on here? Like, who cares?
Well, Ann Coulter, from what I don't know if it's true or not. Years ago, I think they used to date. Like in maybe the 90s.
Oh God.
So this is a long time ago. And he disagrees with everything she says, but I think they're actually friends off the air. They get along a lot. Because I've
said he's also best friends with Gerardo Rivera, but that's the thing. Like, many people like Gerardo. It's just he wastes his time on Fox. So you're like, what are you doing here, dude? Just go where you're actually needed. Like, it is actually ironic how Gerardo used to be the loudest voice in the room. And now on Fox, all he does is get yelled at.
The only person I liked on Fox, and I still like him, is Chris Wallace. I think that I used to love watching the show because, you know why? Because he's just like Bill Maher. He'll have people who disagree with him, but also I think he
comes from the 60 Minutes family, so
he's
like the only guy actually reading the teleprompter, while the other guys are hired to just say, "Hey, insert some propaganda here."
Well, it's funny. I'm sure you know all this too. The reason he quit Fox was because Tucker Carlson came out with this stupid documentary about January 6th being a nice.
I didn't know. Whoa.
Yep. And he just said, I can't do. He went to the head of Fox and said, "Get this off the air. This is stupid." And they're like, "No." And he's like, "I can't work with these people anymore." And there's one time. This is where I've always been a fan of him. But one time I saw a clip of him on. He was the only show I watched on Fox. I don't like Fox at all, but he was on Fox and Friends, and they were reading something about Obama, and he goes, "Hold on, you didn't finish it. What he did say is you this and this." "Oh, come on, Chris. I thought we were friends." He goes, "I'm friends with you, but I'm more friends with the truth." And I said, "Yeah." And Rupert Murdoch got mad at him and said, "I want you fighting with my my anchors on the air, whatever you say off the air." And he goes,
"Right."
But I love the fact, and just it was funny because I watched not that long ago. I watched it was a remembrance of Mike Wallace, and they had clips of him on Chris Wallace's show, first started at Fox. Yeah, and Chris Wallace or Mike Wallace goes, "What are you doing on this station?" Like, and Chris is, "My job, Dad." He goes, "Come on, this station." I was laughing so hard because. But the thing I like about him, just like I like about Bill Maher, Bill Maher will tell you like he's more independent, and I think he is because I think the way he talks. But Chris Wallace, you can never tell if he was a Democrat, Republican, or not because he went after the Republicans just as much as he went after Republicans. Yeah, but people like that I have a lot of respect for, and I like respect for Bill Maher because he's not afraid to say what he really feels. He's not afraid to back down from a fight. He's not afraid of controversy. He's not going, "Oh, I better not say this. I'll make it canceled." He can give a shit less about being canceled. I think there's only.
It's actually been interesting hearing him do his podcast because it just varies. Sometimes he's really talking about nothing, but then other times he's actually getting really kind of philosophical. And I mean, I much would rather someone like him versus Joe Rogan.
Personally. Oh, I don't. Yeah,
because Rogan's like trying to be kind of like stern, but without any idea of how to be over the top and reel it back in. Like he just kind of he just gets high, and that's his formula, and then he goes, "Oh, that's awesome." I was like, well, that's not a conversation.
Well, here's what I don't like about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan pretends that he's a Democrat, but he's this is how open-minded I am. I'm gonna
yeah, I'm
how I like to. I think he's more of a conservative. He's more of a Republican, and he's making himself to seem like more open-minded. Because I just personally, and this is just my opinion, people who are watching this, you don't have to agree with me, obviously, but I don't. He comes out with all these stupid conspiracy theories. Like, that's bull. Where'd you pull this out of? And that's where I don't like.
And then he goes, "Why are you censoring me?" And now lately he's been doing the whole "I'm a libertarian." I'm like, yeah, sure.
No, he's definitely I think he's a hard right wing. I mean, he likes DeSantis. He likes Trump. I never heard him once say anything bad about.
He loves him, and for what? Get this, Trump is all about the whole just lock anyone up who's a drug dealer, and he's like, "I feel much safer with him." I'm like, really? Do tell.
Well, that's what I laugh about. People that like Trump, the people that like him the most are the ones he hurts the most. It's the poor, uneducated, and they love him. And it's like he only cares about the rich. He can give shit less about you. And then
when anyone next in office puts back all his cuts back, they're like, "Oh, the stock market's collapsing." I'm like, yeah, because he took away all the safeguards.
Yeah, I know. And the stock market right now is doing the best it's been.
And you got a flood. Yeah, you take out the.
But now he's taking credit for all the stock market, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then for a week, so I know it's sort of veering off a little bit, but what gets me mad is the whole thing is immigration. They had
absolutely
law they were going to pass. They were ready to pass it. And he goes, "No, don't do it because then it's going to make Biden look good." It proves right there they care less about the people. All they care about is him. He wants to use that as a platform to get back in office.
I knew many minorities who were like, "Oh, Trump's just joking." So I think this is why we need a show, all these different shows like this, just to have a laugh and then just make sense of all the bullshit you hear from your next door neighbor or your coworker who you shouldn't even be talking politics in the first place. I mean,
exactly.
He had freaking, he's had Willie Nelson, David Mamet, Roseanne Barr, Eric Idle. Even just other activists like George Clooney, and people on either side like Schumer and comedians like Penn Jillette, who's always varied on every side. And I mean, you gotta make sense of anything Pete Buttigieg or Carly Farina say too. And so he's had people like those types on, and I've always felt like I understand them better, even if I have nothing in common with them. So. You need something like that. I mean, he's had even comedians I don't really follow anymore, like Jeffrey Ross or Dennis Miller, and it's like he kind of had to have them on there because that was just kind of a way of just saying, but let's get to your audience. Why do you make people laugh the way you do? And I mean,
Yeah. Well, this is why I like what he
like you
says.
say, CNN's not going to have these type personas on.
No, and that's what
HBO
gets me
doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, and I like what he says. He goes half of the Americans like Trump. He goes, you can't hate all the people that like him. You can hate him, but you just those 50% of people that like him aren't going away. And then so he goes, I'm going to give them a voice. I want them to have see what they're thinking, why they think the way they do. That's what he says. He goes, I don't agree with any of them. He goes, I can understand some of the reasons why they think like that, but I would never ever agree with that. And I like that. Instead of like being condescending and put it, I'll give you an example. Bill O'Reilly. Let's go back to him. One of my favorite times was Phil Donahue was on, and Phil Donahue was talking about just on Bill O'Reilly's show. And he was talking about like how these politicians are cowards and they're sending other people's kids. My nephew's in the Navy, and you don't say that. He goes, it's not the same, Bill. You don't know what you're talking about. And very calmly goes, just because you're loud, Bill, doesn't mean you're right. Just because you're loud, Bill, doesn't mean you're right. And I said, that is the best comeback because he didn't even blink. He goes, okay, because Bill O'Reilly, shut his mic off. It's like, those are the people. They don't have anything to back up their arguments. All they do is they think that being loud is going to make them. No, it's like this is why. Do you know who G. Gordon Liddy is?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, no, I used to be in radio years ago. Yep. No, I got to tell you about him.
He had his awful patriotic. Yeah. Sirius XM, I think, had him.
All right, for people who don't know, he was the one who was in charge of water. He was one of the people involved in Watergate, I should say.
Yeah, he was the brains.
He became a radio host. Yeah. And I used to do radio, and on the weekdays they had that show simulcast, and I used to listen to him while I was board teching the show. And I have to say, I disagreed with him about 95% of the time, but here's why I liked him. Because just very calmly, he would say, he would let the person talk and talk and talk. He goes, all right, well, this is why I disagree with you. And he would come back with like this comment, but like he was never condescending and he was never trying to overtalk them. He'd let them have their say. And maybe as misguided as he was in so many things, I like the fact that whatever he said, he goes, this is why I think like this. This is where I get this fact from. So it's just that if there was more hosts like that, I think it would, instead of just...
He is a bizarre one. Like he would really sit quiet in between some racist views that he would share, and then he would still kind of be he would end it with the Patriot card. He is the most out of all the people we have probably tackled, he is just a bizarre one because you betray your country and then you kind of are reborn again saying, and by the way, I still love America. It's like, I've never seen a rebirth that way. Usually you never get a second chance if you've done something that unimaginable. So,
well, you know what's funny with him, he thought that what he did was being patriotic
because the president ordered it. So it's just bizarre. It's just like and as much as I can't get behind him, there was bound to be someone like him, if not more than Downey Jr. or just any other outspoken person. I mean, it's kind of just where radio is now. Like they want you to be extreme but not too extreme, and it's like, well, good luck with that. We've changed so much in 20 years since.
Well, let's get your opinion on this, because I don't know when I say I don't know the whole story, I think maybe there might be more. I despise Alex Jones. I think he's just a lowlife.
Yeah.
But listen though. I mean, I know what he said, but is there a reason why he got sued by all these people? It's like, all right, I know he said they were actors and it was the stupidest things. I know people that were killed I live in Connecticut. It's maybe like 25 minutes away. I used to work 5 minutes away from that area, Sandy Hook, not Columbine, Sandy Hook. So, but he was saying that they were actors. It wasn't true. So, but to me, if that was all he did, that to me, that's freedom of speech. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. But was there something more why they were suing him? Because if that was
mainly that he was damaging their name, and aside from liars, he was also just kind of victim shaming, and just all the other misinformation was really hurting their case at getting just their day in court, for all the poorly set up evacuations and everything. It's just, and it's mainly more just that he went beyond just the whole freedom of speech and just really just like destroyed their name. So it became defamation, and then it became just like, you're dishonoring our killed kids.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I said, I
But now he's just like trying to deny. I never said that. It's like, yes, you did.
Well, but that's stupid because everything you can go back and listen to the audio on or TV clips on. That's why I think it's funny with Bill Maher actually said this so perfectly. He goes, and I'm going to Trump now. Trump's the same way. It's like whenever somebody says he never said that, I said, "Here, let me get my phone. Let me show you." And then one time I did this to somebody. Somebody was talking. I said, "Well, Trump says he loves the highly unintelligent or whatever the quote was, like the unintelligent people." He never said that. I said, "Hold on, let me get my phone. I don't have time for this. I gotta go." I was like, "Oh, sure." Now I'm going to show you where he said that. But with that, I was saying, like, you can just go back. And the reason I brought that up was like with Alex Jones, you'd say, well, no, you didn't say it. Well, what about on October 5th, 2012, when you said this, and show him your phone or a YouTube clip. So you can't get away with anything anymore. So I'm surprised.
I'm really honestly, anyone who says they're an edgy talk show host and haven't been sued at one point, they're definitely lying. Cause like, it's a mixture of, you can be edgy, but you can also be just like fess up. But then that's the other thing. In many ways, they want these commentators to be much like the rowdy ones they see on Fox Sports or ESPN, where they're shameless and they're not going to take back their biased takes. And so then it's just like, I mean, as long as really no one gets hurt, I think that's okay. But like, words can kill, but at the same time, they actually can't. But at the same time, like, they can go too far. I mean, like Howard Stern has episodes he will never remaster just because he's like, that's just not how my persona is anymore. I don't want anyone seeing that episode. It's really shitty. But
see, it's funny because like I actually liked the old Howard Stern back in the 90s. I thought he was like, now I think from my opinions, I think he's become the person he always used to make fun of.
Kinda. I mean, he still gives great interviews though.
Oh no, that's I will give him that 1,000%. That I do like the interviews, but like his show now, it's just all about like, oh, I got to work 3 days a month now. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I got to get out.
Really? Lately, they've been making fun of just other stuff that they do with Ronnie and Robin and everything. But it's mainly just other locker room talk now, where they're just like, remember that time you tripped that guy, or that guy was so rude to you? Why was it? But yeah, it's never as much of let's prank call someone. Pretty much as edgy as you're going to get is them asking for the millionth time someone who's pissed off George Takei and having him come in.
George is great. He's a great guest.
Did you see the latest one where he was judging everybody's nipples?
George?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So that's as risque as they're going to get. But yeah, they've come a long way. But now, I mean, in many ways, these guys are all part of the same pie. That's the crazy part. They have nothing in common, but they're all kind of part of one loud voice. I mean, I even knew people in college who watched, you're going to find this crazy, they watched both O'Reilly Factor and Bill Maher. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
One's loud and the other's, let's come here and sit at a table and have a few laughs. So it's like...
No, what's funny is there's a lot of Republican people that disagree with my politics will say, I like Bill Maher. Because you know what, and I think one of the reasons is that because they'll see a clip where he's talking about how crazy some of the left is just as much as he's talking about how crazy some of the right is, and I actually, so he's not even, the thing I like about it is he's not playing to any side. He's just speaking his mind. That's
probably why some people have been misinformed, saying, "Oh, he's not a Democrat anymore." I'm like, well, he's always been about the bigger picture. That doesn't mean that he switched sides or anything. And again, people liked him because he wasn't saying you got to say what's on the teleprompter for CNN. We got to be neutral.
Yeah, no, and that's what makes me angry, because CNN and MSNBC can talk about some of the crazy things that they do, and just like Fox, I would love once for somebody to say Trump is crazy. And there are some hosts that Chris Wallace is a good one I mentioned, and also Brett Baer on Fox. I've seen him, he had an interview with Trump, and he goes, "No, sir, that's not true. Sir, what about this? No, that's not true." And he just shot him down over and over. So there are some people on there, and just like every baby who can't take it, he'll walk off in the middle of it and say, "Oh, this interview is unfair. It's biased.
This is too woke."
Yeah.
Well, what? I'm on Fox News. And that's the other funny thing, too. Everyone is going to Newsmax just because they'll take anything. The My Pillow guy, and they'll pay every FCC fine for misinformation, while Fox News is like, oh, well, you can say something about, racist, but you can't say something that's not against the Constitution. But at the same time, we're not going to show the full speech because, we're Fox News.
Yeah.
And MSNBC would also drive me crazy because I had so many people when Trump first got elected and they would just like hate watch it. I'm like, see, they're getting your hopes up because they're saying this person's being investigated when their trial is not for another 2 months. You got to chill. You got to actually, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I would just start the day off just with a simple Google News scan and then just get on with the day because I couldn't do that. I mean, and there's always plenty of comfort food. If you want something fun on TV, there's a cool documentary. If you want to watch one of the Dick Wolf shows where a rapist or a skinhead gets shot by a FBI sniper, that's pretty entertaining. And you don't have to get all eaten up by
I know. People take it.
That's
what kills me. It's like, don't even watch it if it's gonna make you this insane. It's just
it will drive you crazy.
Yeah. Some people just, I mean, for the most part,
you and I both got sick of superhero movies, so we just stopped watching them.
Exactly. Well, I always say for the most part,
kindly excuse myself. Hey guys, not watching that.
And I always tell people, so for the most part, our life's not going to change that much. I would never, ever, ever, never want to see Trump in office again. But for the most part, my life's not going to change that much. And it just, when actually the last Bill Maher episode was great when he goes, I love, he has this segment called New Rules, which I know, some of the people who are watching this, and when his last thing, he goes, I'm so sick of people saying, oh, how was your life better, blast better 4 years ago or now? He goes, of course it was. 4 years ago, I was looking for a thing of toilet paper on an empty shelf. I couldn't even go outside. He goes, yes, it was better. And he had this 10, 15-minute thing of all the different things. And I think that is the problem, is the Democrats don't know how to sell themselves because there are so many things. I mean, Maher does a great job of helping him out because he had a chart. He goes, oh, Reagan's their big hero. He showed the chart. Biden had the best economy over Reagan, over Obama, and over Trump.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something he just made up. These were facts. He had the numbers and everything. But is where Democrats have babies.
And yeah.
It's just so.
And I mean, truth be told, most side does come down pretty hard on drug dealers. But I mean, this is where all we can ask for is just good. Unfortunately, there's going to be propaganda everywhere, and then there's going to be, drugs are bad. So really, it's a mixture of everything. Like someone who's already kind of asking for trouble often is going to get probably a shitty deal or be made an example. So you got to just, regardless of what your school is teaching you, do extra research. Like there are guys, I'm telling you, compared to like 2009, the internet has opened up so much to where you can tell what's a legit source versus what hasn't been fact checked. And I'm not talking whatever is or isn't allowed to be shared on Facebook. I'm going even more like into the well. Like for instance, I wanted to do for Religions of the World class a study on Scientology. I couldn't find shit because it was pretty closeted up. And now there's a bunch of different horror stories about it. And with Archive, fortunately backing up so many now defunct sites and everything, is like this. It has opened up so much since, guys. There's, and I just linked a documentary for you on HBO Max, The Truth versus Alex Jones. But yeah, it's like there is so many resources, and at least these guys, that's the whole point of the 4-person roundtable. There's going to be different things, and when it gets too heated, you can calm down. And it's not like they said up front, this is a documentary show.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because this is what I wanted to bring up. One, I want to talk about what you said about comfort food. Most people don't really want the news. They just want to listen to somebody that agrees with what they think already. So they'll watch, they're not going to want to watch the news for the news. They're going to want to watch an opinion show, not the news. That's the other thing. It's like the news is not Sean Hannity. The news isn't Rachel Maddow. The news then that's opinion shows. And but people only want to watch things that people they agree with what they agree with. And the other thing is what's
a news show? Yeah.
No, it's going with the opinion shows. But anyway, so I just think that most people could really care less about the news. They just want to, and most people, they'll
trust me, that is absolutely true.
Well, they'll be walking from the living room to the kitchen, and there'll be something scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And then, if they're talking to somebody, they act like they know what they're talking about. They'll read verbatim what they read on the scrolling of the bottom of the news. And it's like, well, can you back that up? Well, and they have no idea because
or they looked
really
at the headline, but they didn't look at the source that's at the bottom. I mean, I do this with Comic Book Movie, where most of the time they're linking a bogus rumor, everything, and just once in a blue moon they cite an actual like Hollywood Reporter or Associated Press article. I'm like, okay, you won out this once, but most of the time they're taking it from a forum in a different language. It's bullshit. But yeah, I actually had a relative who was far right, and she would randomly be watching Rachel Maddow just because she liked the way she talked. I'm like, well, so you're just blindly listening to her, even though she's not even saying something for your side. And don't get me wrong, I've seen progressive types go to their hard right people. I used to go to my grandfather's military home, and as progressive a guy as he was, we weren't ever surprised that when he wanted to go to his, neighbor's house, they got Fox News blaring really loud, next door. It's just, and he didn't give a shit. He just wanted to hang out with them, and that was just what got voted on whatever coverage was being watched that night, even though he know that most of the guys on there couldn't report to save their lives. So it's just, you got to just kind of breathe in with it and just be patient with everybody, unfortunately, because they're only going to keep being more stuck up and closing you out over just the most petulant arguments at this point. It just,
well, that's what I always, when somebody gets in an argument with me, I said, why don't we talk about something that we have so many other things in common? I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. So why do we even have to have this conversation?
I hate this. I hate this. So why are you even bringing it up?
Yeah, just because you tell me that you saw something, it's not going to be, oh, wow, Cameron, you're right. I'm changing everything I have thought of for the last 50 years, and this is what I believe now. It's like, that's never going to happen. And but it's funny because I have so many people say, you know what, Rich, I love these are people that disagree with me on different things. You're the only one I can really talk to like this because you don't get mad. I said, why should I get mad? I love talking to people with different opinions because, like they say, when you hear something or when you're talking, all you hear is what you know. When you're listening, yeah. So I like talking. So I'm like, so I'll say, well, why would you think that? What do you have to back that up? And then I'll say, well, this is why I think this. This is what. And my friend actually said, he goes, I love the fact because every time you give me an argument, you tell me exactly where you got this from and why you think this. And I say, yeah, I'm not going to just spout information that I heard half-assed. I'm going to say, no, because I'm just like you. If I read something, I'm not going to just read the headline. I'll read the whole article, but then I'll go to different sources. I'm like, well, it doesn't say that here. Let's see like what's real and what isn't real. I'm not going to just take the first article I read and say, oh, that's got to be true.
Yeah. Oh, and especially a good reputable source will correct it the next day when they get told by the rep, hey, you got the time of death on this celeb wrong, or the whoever PR for the White House has now offered this additional thing in the following hour to clarify. So yeah, I mean, fact checking is really a bitch. I mean, I saw people who would even go, I mean, they're worse than the people who go to baseless movie sources, but then they even take it a step up. Like you say, they will just ask you a loaded question. And if they don't hear what they want to hear, they're already closing you out. And it's like, and if you show them proof that they got it wrong, they're now thinking you're making it personal. So in a way, this is why many people do avoid it, because they feel like they're all turning on each other. But it's like, well, we don't even have to turn on each other to begin with. We just got to back your shit up.
Exactly. And I have no problem with people with differing opinions. I just want to know why
do you think that way?
Yeah, why do you think? Yeah. And if you could tell me, oh, well, Rich, this, and every once in a while,
I have friends on all sides of the equation, but we can all agree we just want to be entertained. We don't want a loudmouth, and we don't want anyone just saying something that's just, I mean, you can be friends with an asshole or a jerk. You can't be friends with a douchebag.
Exactly. No, I'm with you.
The ass. Have you ever heard the laughing test?
No, what's that?
So basically, a jerk is gonna go, kind of like Beavis and Butthead. Yeah. Well, an asshole is gonna be like, just laugh real deeply. A douchebag is gonna trip you and then laugh.
That's I never heard that one before. That's hilarious.
A douchebag is gonna be like, sucks to be you, and then still your girlfriend. It's just do something you can't forgive. It's just like.
That's funny.
An asshole or jerk is just basically going to say something out of line, but at least, they'll buy you a burger to make up for being a dickhead earlier. It's just amazing though. Like many people can't tell that. They'll just go, oh, and I mean, my sister would have some of these friends who would just do that with a radical movie, the whole "you're dead to me." I'm like, but now they're not even joking. I'm like, you know what? Buzz off. And even your friend, you're a friend of a friend. It's just I don't see the point of getting that extreme just because I fucking disagree with you.
Well, it's so it's gotten even worse now. Where an example, I'm trying to think.
You are wrong. You are wrong.
No, but there was a it was a I want to say it was a Democratic senator. I can't remember. Maybe it was somebody, or she was a Democrat. Maybe it was an actress. I don't know what it was. But anyway, she went to a baseball game with George W. Bush. Oh my God, it's like, who cares? We're watching a baseball game. George is actually a nice guy. I don't agree with anything he believes in, but I get along with him. And so, I mean, but the fact that people were trashing her just because she's talking to a Republican. It's like, really? It's gotten that bad. But actually, on real time, it was they had somebody that was in Congress for like 30 years, and she said it was the worst it's ever been. She goes, before we would argue, then we'd all go, hey, let's go to lunch. Now it's like they're on this side, they're on that side, and they don't talk to each other. It's just that now, I mean, the whole Build Back Better, the Republicans that voted for that, which if you read it, it actually has a lot of good things in it. It's going to help out, not immediately, but over the years. Republicans that were voting on it were getting death threats from people. It's like, and even Bill Maher said, he goes, one of the most boring things in the world people are getting death threats on because they're voting for Democratic. That's how bad it's gotten. It just has nothing to do with us.
There's no double standards anymore.
No.
So you might as well just have different talk show hosts talk about stuff that will never be resolved anyway.
Yep.
So, but that is true. It has gotten to the point where it's just like, not every person wants blood. Not everybody is going to just refuse to actually do their job, and then collect money under the table. Some of them do legit want to get it done.
I know. And you know what? I very recently I saw Liz Cheney speak. I disagree with her in pretty much everything, but I have so much respect for her because she's somebody I think is highly intelligent, but even she said, because her job right now, and I love this, her job is to go everywhere she can and make sure Trump does not get in office. She goes, and this is where Mark Esper, who was on Real Time last week, got this quote from. He said, she goes, I can deal with 4 years of bad policies. I can't deal with 4 years of insane craziness, lunatic. And I just and I like her for that, but I also just think that she is very intelligent, and just because she has different fundamentally we don't agree in a lot, but that's why I think it's so stupid how these Republicans, I'll call them the MAGAs are the ones I really hate. Republicans I don't hate, MAGAs, and I'll tell you what I mean. They voted her out of Wyoming. She is the Republicans, if they really believe in the Republican way of thinking, she is a Republican dream, and Dick Cheney was her father.
Right?
Ultimately, she voted for Trump 93% of the time. The only thing she did was say, oh my God, January 6th was a bad thing. He should not be causing an insurrection. Oh my God, you can't talk about my orange guy like that.
You can't support the man in charge. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, she is the Republican. That's what I know, that they care less about the Republican values. Oh, I'm a Republican. No, you're not. If you were, the guy has no values and no morals at all. So just shut up, and you're a part of a cult. And I'm talking about the extremes.
And why even believe that he even has a so-called dilemma, a so-called? It doesn't make sense to me that everyone thinks he actually goes to a church, and going to a church doesn't mean you actually believe in it. So
somebody on Fox just recently asked him, "Well, what's your favorite Bible passage?" Oh, I don't. I have a lot. I don't want to get into it. Well, you can't pick.
I'm not political. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
I'm not political, but I'm still going to go home and get angry at a TV.
But the funny thing is he was a Democrat. He helped Bill Clinton get in office. But then all of a sudden, as soon as he couldn't get involved in that party, hey, guess what? He even made a comment saying, I should go to Republican. This is years ago. I should go to the Republican Party. They're dumber over there. They'll accept anybody. I can find that quote somewhere. He said I should go to Republican because they're gullible. So it's just I just don't understand.
Say anything, and that's the other problem. It's just, and then if anything, this is encouraging more people to not go to the polls, and that just makes me want to just say, well, then why why even have this conversation if you don't care to begin with?
Well, I know people that do that, and they're like, "Oh my, I'm not going to vote." I said, "Well, then why are you complaining? You have nothing to complain about if you're saying that this is wrong, this is wrong. If you really believe in that, you would get more involved. You would do something about it instead of just sitting here. Oh, I do things." And this is funny.
I do things.
Yeah. Well, this is you're going to love this. He was such a MAGA that he was hiding Robert De Niro movies at Best Buy because he didn't want people to buy his movies.
Oh my word!
I said, "Oh man, those are the ones I hate.
And
I don't care.
Those are the same guys who also do the whole "I'm cool with that person."
Yes.
Like,
okay.
Okay.
Or they'll start a comment with, "I'm not racist," but like, stop right there. I don't even want to hear the rest of it. I already know where you're going. Yep. Whenever they start a conversation, I'm not
Hitler
racist.
was wrong, but he had good ideas. I'm like, well, the minute you say "but," that means you halfway kind of like him.
Or somebody goes, "Yeah, I got this doctor. He's Asian." I said, "Right, can you stop right there?" I said, "Why does it matter why he's Asian?" No. So why'd you just bring it up? Like, I know those are the same people that do that.
Pretty smart for an Asian guy. Wait, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. So those are. I will say without a doubt, those are the people I hate. I'm not going to hate everybody that likes Trump. I disagree with all of you, but
I can tell someone versus who's just always voted that way versus they actually want to consider every illegal immigrant a rapist. And it's just like, well, and there has been a lot of big topics that have been brought up on there. I know lately Maher was kind of under fire just because he brought up the N-word during an example, and it's like, well,
that was a joke. I know, I saw that, and I got mad because the next week he had to have Ice Cube on and all these other people and apologize. You didn't have to apologize. It was a joke. Nobody got offended at all. The people that he was saying it were laughing. The guy he was, if people know the show, he starts with one guest alone, then he goes to the table. He made a joke, and the guy laughed. The audience laughed. Nobody was offended. And then all of a sudden,
that was part of the whole thing. And yet, despite linking the thing, I saw so many people who are like, he's a grumpy old man. He should not be on here. It's just okay.
Those are the people that have no idea who he is or what he's about, because he is the exact opposite of that. He's not just going on there spouting some old man views. He's going on there. He's highly intelligent. He's highly informed. He knows what's going on. And just like we talked about, I said, I like the people that can back it up. Whenever he says something, he'll have like on the green screen behind him, have like all the facts behind him, or on his notes. He's not just spouting his hatred for the world. Or like old man, like, oh, take back America.
Yeah. And I don't watch him much now, but like I do. I had many memories. I would watch him when I was pet sitting. I would watch all kinds of just clips of him growing up. You know, even when my parents lost bootleg cable, I just always had a way of just kind of seeing what he was talking about. And I mean, there was a reason Seth MacFarlane and a bunch of other types were on there a lot, just because they loved the whole just way he kind of introduced a round table.
Yeah.
I feel like we're to the point where no one wants anyone to really talk about anything anymore, and it's like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I watch it every single week. I've never missed an episode. I love the show. I always look forward to
it. Ever since it's been on, you've seen pretty much it all. Oh,
yep.
Oh, nice.
I've never missed an episode. There was times when something happened with HBO, but then he has the podcast, not random, the new one, but he had the podcast of the real time show as well. So I've listened to that.
That's right.
If I missed it. Yeah. So I've never missed an episode, but I can't remember the last time I didn't watch one. I just love the show and I always look forward to it. And I love the guests. It's funny because years ago I met Salman Rushdie at a book signing, and I said, "Oh, I love seeing you on real time." He goes, "You know what I hate?" He goes, "They are always putting me on with Janine Garofalo. I hate Janine Garofalo." He goes, "But I love working. I love Ben Affleck because it's always Ben Affleck, Janine Garofalo, and Salman." So I started. So that was in the summer. In September, the show started again. The first episode: Salman Rushdie, Janine Garofalo, and Ben Affleck. I was laughing so hard as I was watching that, knowing because.
How do you spell their name again? It's
what Janine.
No, I know Janine. Simone who?
Oh, Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie. He's the guy that had a fatwa put out against him. He wrote a book called Satanic Verses.
Indian British novels. Okay.
Yeah. And he's the one that Khomeini put a fatwa on him, and they said he was in hiding for years because he wrote a book called Satanic Verses. And that's where I met him, because he he wrote a new book, and but he said that back then Stephen King was the nice. He goes back because when the book came out, Stephen King wasn't who he is now. He was an author. He was known, but he said, if they take Satanic Verses off the bookshelves, I will take all my books out of all your bookstores, and it may not be a big thing to you because I have a lot of friends who are authors and they will do it too. And so they kept the book on the shelf. He goes, Stephen King was so good to me. He always believed in freedom of speech and being able to do it. And he goes, I'll never ever forget that. The guy he was a really, like, I got a chance to talk to him for a little while. A really great guy. Really, I don't know if you've seen him on the show.
I do vaguely recall him on there, but yeah, he's been on many talk shows just promoting his books and very culturally versed.
Well, he came out of hiding after years on David Letterman's show, like in I want to say 93, 94, somewhere around there. But yeah, he was nobody knew where he was for years because he was hiding from the fatwa, and then he showed up on Letterman's show.
There you go.
Yep. And then he's been all over ever since. But then he actually, which is so sad. Recently, he was at this event where he was speaking. I want to say about free speech. Somebody ran up on stage and stabbed him.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I know he's gotten death threats. I didn't know he got stabbed.
Yeah. This is fairly recent. I want to say maybe about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. This happened. Yeah. It's sad. So nice. So question for you then. What do you like best about real time?
I think just, aside from the opening interview, it was just always good how he just even got the panel, he willed it on in here. And at the end, he wanted to have at least just some kind of consolidation. And sometimes the interviews could get out of hand because they really were divisive or not agreeing, especially post 2016, everyone was talking about stuff and no one could agree on, who's the best candidate, or it was doomed to begin with. They needed better candidates to fight Trump in the first place. And at the end of the day, I could at least just go to sleep after some casual laughs. I remember there was a real heated one that had Bill Nye the Science Guy and a bunch of other guys.
Oh, I saw it.
2016. Yeah. And it was just like, but I was at least just at peace, just knowing, hey, at least they opened up 5 different dialogues and then they end it with the new rules, the whole point of the show. And it was like, see, that's funny. That's where it and Daily Show have a lot in common. And in many ways, I do feel like he and Jon Stewart are kind of part of the same coin in that they just, they came from a comedic background and talk show background. And then they, who would have guessed they'd be watching hours of crappy news programming and having to use a clip the next day.
Yeah. No, well, question for you. Since you mentioned Daily Show, is Jon Stewart the new host, or is he just filling in again? Is he the permanent host?
He's on like every other week now, and I think that's actually a good leeway because for a show that has had so many different hosts, I think people remember more often than not just the wacky commentators.
Yeah. Well,
Michael Che went from that to SNL. Steve Carell and Ed Helms went from that to The Office. And then, Trevor Noah is this nobody South African stand-up guy who then decided, okay, now that I'm on here, I think if anything, a good podcast you would love is Basic, before cable was cool. And they talk about almost every other person who worked at Viacom. And when John first joined, like the whole Daily Show writing staff was pretty hostile. Like they were not getting along. And he's like, hey, I'm a free guy. I'm a fair guy. If you don't want to write here, I'm not forcing you to stay here, but I'm also not here to take over the show. I'm here to I like the gimmick. I like the whole idea. And I'm just adding my 2 cents here and there. It's just, so I think it has always been good at just kind of being you think you're watching an actual news segment and then you're not. And then you just have a hysterical, inept, they wear different hats. They wear different personas. And it's always so funny how whoever the, field reporter is, they're saying something outlandish while they're, talking to him on a green screen saying that makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, I mentioned off the air, I said, I think my favorite era of the show, which a lot of people, Craig Kilborn, but I liked the reason I like that too is that he had so many great people, as you mentioned a couple of, like Mo Rocca, Nancy Wall, Stephen Carell. Who's the guy that does the show now on HBO? My mind just went blank on this. He's an English guy.
John Oliver. Yep.
John Oliver. Yeah. You know what's funny? I really didn't like John Oliver on The Daily Show. I liked him on his show now, but now I'm starting not to like him again. I think because for me, he's too far to the left. Like I think he's like what I don't like about the right is what I don't like about these people where he just will not have anything.
No, I understand.
Bad to say. He'll just like it's always about like Republicans are bad, Democrats.
He doesn't
go
as deep as I would like, but I have seen some people go, "Oh, he's all I listen to. I can't do Daily Show anymore." So it is interesting how, in one way or another, everyone's picked one corner to be in.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
And that's where I always go back to Bill Maher. I think he's the only one out of all these shows that's stuck right in the middle. And that's what I like about his show the best. But Daily Show.
Did you follow Samantha Bee at all?
Yeah, Samantha Bee. She's another one. She was like one of the newer. She wasn't part of the regular. I mean, she was like newer one.
Yeah.
Do you remember Ellen's brother, Vance DeGeneres? He was another hilarious comedy.
I didn't know he was on there. Wow. I saw so many of them, especially the best of special DVDs they would put out.
He was in the very beginning. And you know what's funny about him is years ago I went to a taping of The Daily Show, and Jon Stewart was filming that movie Death to Smoochie. So they had Vance DeGeneres as the host. I think that guy's hilarious. Like I will
check him out. I know Samantha has a new show called Choice Words, the podcast. I just found out while doing this, but no, that is true. I mean, so many of them were still there when John took over, and then if anything, I'm just glad that ComedyCentral.com has always had all those clips up and full episodes for the most part. So I never felt like, hey, you can never watch this ever again. You know, it was just like South Park. People want to watch an old, outrageous interview they did. Did you ever see any of the author interviews they would often end the show with?
On Daily Show?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the one for me. That's a show I haven't really watched in a while, but I do remember that.
Right now, I would say they're heavy hitters that they have on right now. Ronnie Chang is probably the best one. They always give him something stupid to do, and he'll work in some amusing Asian jokes.
Yeah.
But they got Desi Ledek, and she's hysterical because like she will sometimes be she goes back and forth. She'll sometimes be the straight person or just the crazy person, and sometimes do some outrageous like stunt that makes you go, "Whoa, did you just do that?" It seems like what's their name?
Is Rob Corddry still on the show? He was hilarious.
No, he's not, but he did come back for when John first left.
Okay.
And that was like, I think that's what I really dug the most. When he first left, like everybody who had just been on there like the first 15 years was pretty much back. Olivia Munn and everybody came back. Roy Wood Jr., I feel, has contributed the best in terms of the field interviews. But yeah, Michael Costa, he's the brunette-haired guy who they have on now, and he also, like Desi, will do kind of just some. They still got the same formula. It's just it's different hats, and don't get me wrong. All throughout the time I've seen it, there have been weaker weeks where I've just been like, that was okay, but there was only like one. It's just like Saturday Night Live. There was only one funny gag really that.
Yeah. You know who I like on that show, and I actually had a chance to see him and do comedy, and I got a picture with him. With Louis Black, Black on Black. When he does that,
he is still on there on occasion, and
I love that.
He doesn't slow down for anybody. I think if anything, he's the more. I mean, he had a great. Well, maybe I'm the only one who thought it was great. He had a hysterical one where it's like he would take different dictators or scenarios and have two different comedians defend their side.
Oh no, I remember that. Yeah, that's I forgot about that.
What was the name of that? It was.
No, I can't think of it. That's funny.
They had a DVD, and it sucked that they couldn't show it because like it was just censored. But a lot of people gave it some serious shit. They just were like, it's not funny. The audience is rigged. I'm like, well, just listen to the overall scenario that he's saying, but whatever. But I remember it just never took off as big. And the name of it was, and I'm sure everyone else is like, Cam, why don't you know it? It's been years.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's always staying busy. He's always hosting some kind of
Oh yeah.
comedy special. If there's anyone I see on my TV the most, it's probably him, Mark Maron, Aisha Tyler, or just some other
Yeah. Yeah.
Conan
What I
O'Brien.
like about Lewis Black is I know at least for his stand-up, he doesn't really know what he's going to do when he gets on stage. He has
The
an
root
idea.
of all evil.
Yes. Yep, I do now. As soon as you said that, I remembered it.
And it's just there's something. I mean, Larry Wilmore did a funny one back in 2016, and
Yeah.
no one saw it. And I was like, so if anything, I like how everyone has. I mean, like you said before, I know people who are avid John Oliver fans, but I'm just kind of like, I'll watch a clip, but I'm not going to watch a whole show. It just doesn't interest me that
I
much.
watched it for a while. First, somebody said, "Oh, you're gonna love it." I said, "No, I can't." I never liked him as a commentator on the show, and I said, "All
I
right, I'll
see
give it a guess."
conservatives will watch it just because he's
Yeah.
British, and it seems
Yeah.
to me just so wild how many Brits and conservatives seem to think just as radically, even when
Yeah.
they don't. I don't get it. Actually, I do get it, but it's just there's still a fault in the pipeline somewhere along the way where you're just like, you guys really don't have as enough in common. You just have certain principles
Yeah,
that you think
Well,
you have in common.
as I told you before, I said the reason I got sick of it was because it was just all one-sided view. Like he had all these views, and it was like nothing to really balance it out a little bit.
We got to do this, we got to do that, and
yeah, and it was just
it
like
was kind of like Buttigieg, where I'm like, well, that doesn't apply anymore. You're talking like 1999
yeah,
Democrats, or and truth be told, a lot of the Democrats we loved are now corporate Democrats. So you might as well be the neo Democrats who are trying to be progressive, who are trying to make everyone happy. And
no,
I mean that is also a good segue for. That's kind of why I really dug Young Turks growing up, because by 2008 2009, like they were everywhere on YouTube, and they were kind of like the Daily Show, where they would take a clip and they would say, "Can you believe what he said? That doesn't make any fucking sense." So they were kind of a little more unfiltered.
yeah,
but like sometimes it'd be a little mean, like there's no way George Bush read a book, where I'm like, I'm sure he reads a book, he just probably can't read it very well. But but then there was other ones where it's like, yeah, no, I do agree with that. Like they would at least call out more socially crimes that more of us are probably kind of a victim of, like credit card theft, crappy Bible study group leader, or cop harassment. So I liked how they brought in some social topics, and believe it or not, you'll love this. They used to have Frank Conniff, TV's Frank from Mystery Science Theater. When I interviewed him, he told me he used to do a lot of segments, and I was like, that makes sense.
Wait, let's, I wanted to bring that up because you did. Who did you interview from Young Turks?
I did interview Chang Uger, and he was a delight. And it was so hard for me to contain my excitement because I only had him for 30 minutes. So, he's got to go and do 5 more tours, But, I saw some people who didn't like the interview. Some of them were like, dude, you this guy's a sham. And I'm like, okay, well, why do you think
That's your opinion.
He's like, he's asking for money. I'm like, and your local politician doesn't?
That's what gets me mad. It's like, why do people have to go on there and just talk about what they don't like? It's like they're so. I bet
they're
you
really not too dissimilar. I mean,
well, if you saw that person in person, they'd be like, Cameron, how are you doing? Oh, great show. But behind the keyboard, you suck. It's the worst interview ever. Oh my God.
I at least validated his interview. I told him, here's the shit I'm hearing. And he just started rolling his eyes, saying, and then doing a signature, of course. That's why people like him. That's become a GIF now, a meme. You say such and such something absurd thing, and he says, of course, just which is his way of blowing off steam and saying, of course you said something that ridiculous. But when he was challenging in the primaries, Joe Biden, everyone was like, oh, he's going to be a third party like Bernie or Ralph Nader. And he's like, no, I'm just trying to beat him to the punch. Now, obviously I didn't get the votes, but whatever, it's interesting to me how they also are in the same boat, much like Maher, where you would get this. Anna Kasparian, the main brunette host, she stopped going on to MSNBC because it became very apparent. She said this I would say within the last 5 years, she has especially said this. She's like, I'm done playing games.
Yeah.
It was very clear, much like when Zhang was calling the election, because that's what he does. He studies the algorithms and the demographics. And he got laughed off when CNN didn't like that he was predicting, oh yeah, Hillary doesn't have a chance. She said this, she hasn't said that and gone to this state. Trump's unfortunately going to win. I'm not saying he's a good guy. And they're like, oh, you're full of it. You're like, no, I predicted the last 5 elections prior. I'm not saying this because who I'm voting for. And Anna had to stop going on MSNBC because it became very clear to her they just want a pretty face.
Yep.
It's like,
right, well, I'm afraid to ask you, who do they think is going to win this election?
I've been listening in and out of this season, but they were filling. That's why Chang just decided to test out the waters, see if he or Marianne Williamson could get some votes. And right now, they're pretty much just like, hey, Biden, you have no one to blame but yourself if you can't appeal to all these other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing, not enough has changed, but we're hoping some college bills and other funding can go through. It's just, I've always liked how they have dissected, like you say, they have talked about shit that no one else.
Yeah.
Much like Maher and Daily Show will at least bring up a amusing racial question or stupid, that they would even do what Conan would do, where they would have an amusing bumper after the fact showing a stupid live video that they played earlier saying, can you believe that shit? Someone actually said that and no one stopped them. But they're at least good at one thing they do a lot now is say no cookies for you, and then do a trickle effect that they will catch someone in a lie. And one source they use a lot is opensecrets.org. And honestly, I have gone to that site a few times. I think everyone should use that for their research papers. Like,
what's it called? Opensecrets.org?
Opensecrets.org. Right. So when someone says, I didn't support, this organization, or so let's say someone calls you in a lie saying, do you agree with this thing that the Chicago Tribune or Fox Broadcasting or NBC Universal has supported? And they say, I've never supported any of their bills, but you can go there. And if there's a parent company that's one of those companies giving a contribution to their next campaign, you can say, yeah, no, I don't like these odds. But it's a good way of also just kind of, I get it, and they're good at just kind of saying, hey, Elizabeth Warren's more of a corporate Democrat, while Nina Turner, Cory Bush, and Chuck Schumer is definitely a corporate Democrat, but Nina Turner and Cory Bush are definitely the progressives. They're actually reading shit that's online instead of saying, I'll try to do enough and then fail to do anything,
Well, here, I like what Bill Maher said. He said, Republicans create, wait, how is it? I want to word this.
They create obstacles, don't
they? They create the polls. Democrats follow the polls. Like, Republicans will say, like, I really don't give a shit what you think about this. This is what I'm going to do. Democrats are like, oh, we have to make everybody happy. Oh, they don't like this. Let's do this instead. Oh, they don't like this now. Let's make them happy. So they try too hard to make everybody happy, and they're not going to make everybody happy. And then you just nobody says, everybody's like, what do I even like about this person? He's just doing everything he can to appeal to everybody. You're not going to be able to appeal to everybody. But I'll get the exact quote because it's a really good one.
That's a good point, because we are actually in that point where long story short, we are deciding, Young Turks talks about it too, don't surrender. And there's a way to make everyone happy while calling out the people who weren't going to like anything you did anyway. And they've had comedian Maj Jabrani on a bunch of times, and he's done really good at talking about some of the more recent, incidents. They also have talked about, times where both Israel and Palestine have been framed for the other's attack. That's good. That's something no one wants to talk about. It's like, I got to go with the momentum. And then we've seen celebs, Susan Sarandon's been on Bill Maher a few times, but not lately. Everyone's like, she hates Jews. I'm like, that's not what she said. She said, I don't support,
It just drives me crazy. Like somebody will.
I don't even bring up my take on the whole scenario because I know I'll be damned if I do, damned if I don't. I have to pick a side, and it's like this isn't like OJ versus the people. This isn't like. I mean, I was this way with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's like I didn't like either. I hope both get their cases thrown out of court and have to file Chapter 11. But most people were like, "You got to pick a side." Oh yeah, you know. One's an abuser. The other's
all about picking sides with people. It's like you're either perfect example is George Bush. You're either for us or against us. Like, no, that's not really.
That kind of logic has only grown. It is only we've only gotten stupider just with various takes. Like if you bring up something saying I don't care for it, that doesn't mean you don't think it's completely abysmal and without merit. It just means it didn't yank your chain. It didn't do anything for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just you can't say anything. And actually, I love this because Bill Maher brought this up. He said that the reason that all these young kids are so outraged and so offended by everything is because they have the cushiest, most easy life. Life's been better than it's ever been, and there's really nothing to rebel against. So they have to find something to rebel against, and that's where I think this whole woke movement started.
He's a rebel, so I don't even know why people get annoyed when they hear him say that. I'm like, well, you're a rebel too, just like him. He's just
But when somebody gets offended by like he always says this too. He goes, "You can't be more offended than the victim." And an example was there was this baseball player who was making fun of his teammate who's Asian. And he's going like this with his eyes. And the Asian guy was laughing, though. The Asian guy was, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's right." And the guy said, and that's when Bill Maher said, "You can't be more outraged than the victim." The guy was his friend. He thought it was funny. Who cares? Get over it. So, but these people just have to make something out of everything. And there was no case here. He was just making fun of it. He was a Friends Forever baseball team, and he was making a joke, and then everybody's got to get offended. That's just one example.
I think the only time he's gone maybe too far. I know he was interviewing Russ Tamblyn, who's been molested by a few bad people in Hollywood, and he didn't seem to be well worded in the question. But I think that's just it. I mean, I can give or take it. He is an older dude, so I'm not going to say he's cut out for everything. But that's the other thing too. Like I've seen people take stuff Jon Stewart said out of context. And then other people try to even say, "Hey, he's not any different than Joe Rogan." I'm like, oh, yes, he is.
Oh, my God. Yeah, there's no comparison. You know what? And it's sad because sometimes Joe Rogan have people that are on the show that I want to hear. I just don't want to listen to him. Right? I don't listen to him at all. I just don't like him.
Dude, I used to see just other people just act like it's so different. I'm like, there's a big difference.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. And I don't want to support the guy. I just don't like his show. I don't like him. And I just don't. And it's just, I don't know. There's something, I told you some of the reasons why I don't like him, like with the whole conspiracy theories and all that. And I don't even really care what he believes.
They really are that dangerous at this point where it is now, if anything, you're encouraging all the crazies. I mean, we are pretty much, Trump, like for instance, Howard Stern knew when to just cut off the feed if people were just giving him really, really bad ideas. But then there were other times where it's like, you know what? I actually want to know, even though this is a really stupid question. It's just, that's funny. That's a funny interaction. But he knew when to just say, you know what? We're all ready to march outside and not record an episode, so let's just cut the feed.
Yeah.
Not taking any questions in 5 minutes.
You know what's funny? I forgot about this until you just brought this up. Years ago, Bill Maher was on the Howard Stern show, and
I bet.
He's
been on recently, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, it's funny because they were not friends for the longest time, and then he went on to real
shit
time
about each other.
But years ago, he had a politically incorrect episode with the Whack Pack. It was hilarious.
With Beetlejuice and Company and Fred.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I forgot all about that until we just started talking about real time and Howard Stern. It was, I want to say, in the 90s sometime. And it was like, I'm trying to think of who was, Crackhead Bob was definitely one of the people on there. I'm trying to think. I think Hank the Angry Drunken Dwarf was on there. It was hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah.
That had to be crazy.
Yeah. I got to say, one thing with the Daily Show, which got me mad at first, which I know he's not like this anymore, but after 9/11 happened, Jon Stewart sort of took himself, in my opinion, way too seriously. Like, remember, it used to be the most important news show of all time, and they took that off, which I know that probably wasn't him, but then like he
would often contradict himself a bit. He says you shouldn't be watching this for news, but at the same time, he knew that people were watching this. This is the only.
Yeah.
I mean, people like my uncle were only watching this just because they were sick of the fearmonger on. I think the main issue is mainstream news really got fucked up by that point. It was a lot of fearmongering, so it's kind of a lose-lose in that regard. On you still got to actually make time to watch the actual news.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I laugh at Maher's headlines, because I know exactly what he's talking about and I get the jokes. Some people just like, what's he talking about? Oh, I didn't know that. And then, so yeah, I'm just like you. I where I work, we have this thing called the U.S. Newsstand. It has all the papers in the U.S. and and Canada, like Maclean's. So I'll read everything, and I love doing this because I like reading the same story from different. I want to see the difference of how their take on each story, and it's hilarious. Like one is completely different on the same event. It's like, wow.
I didn't watch as much of Craig Kilborn. How did you feel how he carried himself? I had only seen his late night show, and I didn't feel like he was cut out for that. But how did you like him when he was a Daily Show host prior to his off-color behind the scenes remarks?
I liked him because like his whole persona is smug, arrogant, but that's just a persona. Maybe he's like that in real life. I don't know, but I know. Like,
but it worked for the show, and definitely from clips I have seen over the years. And to be fair, when they've done flashbacks, they have gladly shown clips that he's been in.
Yeah.
So it's not like. I think that's why I dug it, regardless of who the hell the host was. It was still kind of like SNL, where they were going to show all eras. It wasn't this side, this era never happened. It was like, no, it acknowledges it.
Perfect example is Jack Parr was the original host of Tonight, or no, Steve Allen was the original host of Tonight Show. Then Jack Parr, but everybody knows Johnny Carson.
Most people are going to just go Carson.
Yeah, no, there was two other hosts before that, Jack Parr and then Steve Allen before that. So
not to mention all the other guys of that same era, like Merv Griffin and.
Oh yeah, not Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas. I used to watch. Like I'm 55, I'll be 56 years old. So I actually,
my dude.
I was young, but I watched a lot of those shows. Like I used to watch Merv Griffin. I used to watch Phil Donahue. I used to watch Mike Douglas. I mean, I was Johnny Carson.
My parents are like 5 years older than you, and they will. I don't know what it is, dude. I feel like we are getting extra pickier. Some for valid reasons, and others for just like, yeah, but you've never watched this, you've never given this a chance. And it's so funny. Is my father was kind of carefree on certain stuff, but every once in a while he might watch a funny. I feel like by this time, like all these shows benefited from the viral surge, but that's kind of why they survived. There was some people would videotape, and they found out the whole, hey, let me send you a funny clip that'll get past your inbox at work. And watch it at lunchtime. And somehow that tradition has continued, but it's only gotten worse because people still want to prevent you from playing a video in a public setting, or there's still a few heated arguments that to be had. But there's nothing better than just something like, I mean, I'd rather you show me a funny clip on new SNL rather than I suffer through the whole 90 minutes, because I want to watch just the skit that was good. It's kind of, give it to me like if you're doing an audition, give me your 2-minute demo reel. Give me all your best bits. Don't give me all 5 individual speeches. I'm just like the talent agent, not going to make time for that. Just give me 2 minutes of amusement and I will.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember, perfect example is one of the most watched episodes in TV history is the final episode of MASH. And I remember coming home.
There
you go. You could only watch it when it was on. There was no such thing as VCRs back then. You couldn't record it. There was no YouTube. There was no streaming. You couldn't watch it later. If you didn't watch it that night when it was on, that's when Seinfeld was the same. That was 98, I think it was. There was a little bit more where you could VCRs. You could watch it later, probably.
That was one of the DVDs. Funniest Howard Stern interviews I ever listened to. Back when he was making kind of a comeback, and I want to say 2014, 2015, he interviewed Bill Murray, and. It was a good interview and everything, but what's so funny is Murray was like, I heard that you were never big on Seinfeld. And he's like, well, what episode did you watch? The finale?
Yeah.
That's like with any show. If you watch a lesser season, you're never going to give it a chance.
Yeah. To me, Larry David is probably one of the funniest people in the world. I love his show.
Rest in peace, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That is my all-time favorite show. Because he can make fun of everything, and he does it in such a hilarious way.
That was one of the few improvised shows that lasted.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
other
well,
than Always Sunny, I can't think of any other show where they improvise most of what's to
no.
say.
And I'm sure you know, it's the next week is the final episode of the whole series.
Oh, sorry, I thought it already ended, but yeah, we're
no, April 7th. So 24 years, 12 seasons or 13 seasons. But it's just I mean, there's so many episodes I can just go back and watch and just start laughing like it's the first time I saw it. It's just so funny. And I think it was good. Another thing with HBO, because HBO doesn't have sponsors for the most part, and they could get away with it. I mean, if he was doing that on TV, there's no way he could. I mean, he had this whole episode where they're making fun of Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox has such a great sense of humor.
That he did. Well, and I mean, we mentioned it before. We're sick of also just hearing about comedians talk about what is woke when they don't even know the word half the time. And cancel culture is like, well, yes, there's always going to be the whole, don't complain if you can't take a joke. But then there is also just be clever, be witty. Don't just have the F-bomb counter.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small-town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But here's what I think is funny. Years ago, my all-time favorite comedian is George Carlin. And years ago, he was very clean cut. He wore the tie, the suit. He'd do Kennedy impressions, and he said he wanted to become. He said he really never felt like himself, so he went to the college campuses, grew his hair long, became a hippie. It was like during the Vietnam era, and that's where he got a chance to be edgier. Now it's the exact opposite, where people want to be edgy, they can't go to colleges because colleges are banning them. Bill Maher is the person that got banned from a college, and he was reinvited. It's just these other, even Seinfeld, who is not probably he's probably one of the cleanest comedians I've ever heard. He says he refuses to go to colleges. Yeah. So
now I've seen some people trying to act like he's a pedophile because he was dating some underage people. But see, that's just it. It wasn't serious. They weren't actually, sleeping together. But the 80s and 90s, I mean, all those breakthroughs had to be done anyway. But I'm seeing other people. I mean, you can often tell when someone is even just a casual viewer. I would see people say, "Oh, Friends, that's not a diverse cast." I'm like, they dated plenty of minorities for more than a few seasons on that show. And then I've seen other people say, "Oh, why does the rich guy or the gangbanger always be the one who gets sent to jail in Law and Order?" I'm like, there are many different kinds of people who there's plenty of mistrials and there's plenty of people on those Dick Wolf shows who don't even get their day in court.
Well, you know what's funny?
Or the guy gets away and someone gets shot outside a courtroom. So boom. Are you all happy now?
No, it's funny you said that. There was a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode that made fun of that. So a woman came up to him, and this is in the show. She goes, "Mr. Larry David." He goes, "Do I know it?" "Yeah, I tried out for Seinfeld. You wouldn't have me." "Mr. Larry David hates black people." No, I love black people. Mr. Larry David won't have any black people in Curb. No, in Seinfeld. No, I had plenty of black people. No, you didn't, Larry. It was funny. It was him making fun of what people said about like Friends, and Seinfeld, and all that. And he did it in such a funny way. He's like, "I'm not a racist. No, I love."
Oh, and those are just as much giant ass New York shows too. I mean, can you imagine any other kind of New York based TV in the late 90s? I mean,
if I had to think about it, I can't think of any of them. Those were obviously the two most popular.
But if there's anything that any comedy show does best, when they peel behind the curtain and do stuff like that, is like, see, imagine how far they had to go just to, show you all the nutty personas and people with suits that they've had to deal with, stupid fan mail,
Yeah. Well, it was funny too, because on this show, he had a Seinfeld reunion. It was like, did you see that?
I did see that episode. That's a while back. That was like in 2007, I think.
Maybe, probably. But the reason I'm bringing this up was like, which is why I like how he makes fun of everything, because there was, the character Leon.
Yes.
That's Leon's so Leon is pretending to be somebody because Michael Richards is where he's having a disease. He has Groat's disease. He goes, can you just pretend you're this guy? Because the real guy died. And this is in the show.
Yeah,
so then
smooth, man. Yeah.
So then, but afterwards, Michael Richards finds out who it is. He starts screaming at him. He goes, if there was only a word I could use. Because you know what happened with Michael Richards when he went crazy at a comedy club and using the N word.
And
then everybody's filming him with their phone. He's like, no, not again. Come on. It's hilarious. And he just had who's the woman from Full House? The one that got arrested for.
Lori Laughlin. Yeah.
She was on the show recently, and they were in the show. He got her back into the golf course, the golf club, and he goes, "Oh, we can't do this." And she goes, "Of course we can. I got some money." And then she's like paying off the guys. And he goes, "Oh, what about this? Don't worry, I got the handicap sticker. We can park here." Throughout the whole episode, she's just making fun of herself being entitled and giving her money to get things. So I like how he could do that. He can take the real life incidents and get the people to be humorous about themselves and make fun of themselves. And like I said, the whole, because with Michael J. Fox episode, he was telling them to be quiet, and because his girlfriend was playing piano, and they were in a restaurant. After when he was leaving, he said, "All right, see you later, Mike." And he goes like this. He goes, "Was that an angry shake or a Parkinson's shake?" So he didn't know. So then he goes to apologize. He does something else. He gets mad at him. So he says, "You want a soda?" He's giving him. He's going like this. The soda goes all over him. He goes, "Parkinson's." The whole episode, he's just messing up. Because you're pissed off at me. He goes, "No, it's Parkinson's." "No, you're pissed." It's just I like comedians.
The fact that it was like half the time they're playing a fictional version of themselves, and other times it's like they're using half their name.
Yeah, well, that's what's funny, because like they're exaggerating things that are really happened to them, but making fun of the fact that it did. And it's just like those are just three examples I could think of off the bat. But he's done 24 years of shows, and there's so many. And for anybody who hasn't watched it, check it out. You'll start from the beginning, because they're all good.
Totally.
Well, I like comedians that push not pushing the boundaries because they're trying to get a reaction. I like comedians that are genuine. Like, that's why I like Bill Maher. That's why I like Larry David. That's why I like Jon Stewart. That's why I like some of these other, and Young Turks. I know they're not really comedians, but they're out there.
They have some comedians on, but yeah, I mean, I think most people around my age, especially in 2009, we were all just fed up of all the warmongering, fear-mongering, and it just gave us hope that, hey, there might be a way to get out of Iraq. There might be a way for people to actually pronounce each other's names and not piss each other off. And it was just those zingers. And it was just in a time when memes and GIF files were about to become a thing, let alone amusing emails. So, I mean, again, all these shows have their purpose, regardless of who's kept up with them or not. I mean, they'll be around until literally an EMP destroys all the cable.
Well, you just put it. I was feeling good about everything
until my Killjoy doomsday scenario. But I mean, they're going to be around forever. I mean, until they get sick of the world and say, "Fuck yeah, I don't want to do this anymore."
No, I'm glad that things are recorded now, and
I mean, you mentioned Curb. That's a show not everyone would keep up with, and it's just like, well, that's just it. Like, they do the next season when they feel like it. Can you think of any other show that does that?
Well, the rest of the cast got mad because they said every time Larry's like, "Oh, we're not going to do a new show. I don't have any ideas," they'd get hired from a new TV series in the middle of the day. We're doing another. He's like, "Oh, come on!"
Like, it just gave them more material, if anything.
Yeah. Well, this season's really good. It's all about.
I can't wait. I will catch up.
This season, I'll give you a synopsis of what it's about. he in the last season they did a show called Young Larry, and it became a big hit. So in this season, he goes to Georgia, and I don't know if you remember Auntie Ray, who's Leon. He saved the family from what was that big hurricane? Oh my God, it was like a I can't remember her name, but it was, anyway, in the show, he saves the family and they live with him. So he goes to visit her to see how she's doing, and it's really hot and they're voting. So he goes, "Oh, let me get you a water." He gets arrested for giving somebody, because in Georgia it's illegal to give somebody any kind of food or water. And the whole episode, but then he becomes a hero. So Bruce Springsteen wants to meet him, so he's on the show. Conan O'Brien's on the show. It's a great premise, and he just makes. So it's so relevant to what's going on in the world today right now, and it's hilarious. So I highly recommend you watch that season.
I mean, they were so up to date. I mean, talking about Hurricane Katrina and post.
Yeah, that's it, Katrina. That's what I'm talking about. That's the one in the show. He saves them from Katrina. That's where they call it, the family is the black family, and they're black, and there's a whole big misunderstanding with that too. It's hilarious.
Perfect. I will.
You know what's funny about that? The guy who plays Leon, his name is JB Smoove.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do stand-up comedy. I did a lot of shows with his brother. His brother.
Oh,
yeah.
I know he had a brother.
Yeah, his brother's he's not funny and he's not really that popular, but he made sure he knew everybody knew. So when I hired him for I used to do my own comedy shows, and he goes, "Make sure you tell everybody I'm Leon's brother." I'm like, "Don't you want to make it on your own?" But he just loved riding his brother's coattails. But
well, I'll level with you halfway. I mean, Larry Saunders still holds up.
Oh my God, I love that show. Yeah, that's and you know the story about that is that they wanted to offer Gary Shandling a real talk show. He goes, "I don't want it." So he made a talk show about a talk. He made a show about a talk show
because he would have had to play by the rules, and he didn't want to. You know, every comedian hates having to be accused of "you sold out." You know.
Well, you know what's funny? Jeffrey Tambor is always hilarious. Hey now, but
yes, he's a perfect example of a comedian. I mean, the character he's playing, not his off-screen persona, but like a guy who has the same persona on and off, and really, it just shows you how they all drive each other crazy, and they're like, "Go to the receptionist."
Well, it's funny. I got a chance. When I was in New York, I saw Glenn Ross the play, and Jeffrey Tambor played in that, and I got a chance to meet him. Yeah, he was really good. It was him, Alan Alda, and some I can't remember who else. But
Jesus, this sounds like the Few Good Men stage play where you're like, I would like to see that version versus what we saw in the movie. Not anything against the movie.
I don't know if you can see this, but who's the guy who played his producer?
Oh my word! Is that
what's his name? My mind went blank.
Rip
Torn. That's Rip Torn. This guy was a complete. You mentioned the name before, douchebag. He was a douchebag. Yeah, I was taking a picture, and he goes, I went like that. He was doing something. So he goes, don't do that. I said, he goes, "I knew Sir Lawrence Livy, and you." I said, whoa, calm down. And Lawrence Livy would never even do that. I said, "What are you talking about?" All I was doing was say he was going like this. Oh, I know it was the thumbs up. He was doing so. I said,
"Wow!"
And he goes, "Don't you do that?" So then the woman came up to me. She goes, I'm sorry. He had a fight with his son earlier. I apologize." I'm like, "This guy's an asshole." I was just used to.
I've heard those stories. How he had like some dementia, I think. And
and I live in Connecticut. He broke into a Greenwich, Connecticut bank. He was.
I heard about that. That was like 2007 or some shit.
Yeah,
it was just one of those. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, no,
actors, you are not human sometimes.
I go to a lot of, I think you probably see. You and I are friends on Facebook, right?
Probably. Yep.
Okay. No, the reason I'm asking because I know that you send me stuff and everything, but I go to Chiller Convention every April and every October, so I meet a lot of these people, and I met so many great people. But he has to be him. And Tatum O'Neal were the two biggest pieces of shit I ever met. She was just as bad. People were taking a picture. "Don't you fucking take a picture. I need you."
Yeah.
Then I put my arm around her. "Get your fucking hand off me." I said, "Whoa, calm down."
I've been there, done that. I told you about Tom Savini. You've heard stories, I'm sure. I mean, you told me about Hamilton, and that reminded me of just other people who should just be at a panel for like 2 hours and then leave instead of.
Oh, I hate that.
Right?
Well, I go on a Sunday. and everybody's gone halfway. It's like, no, they should be forced to stay there the whole day because Saturdays are so crowded. It's not worth going.
They just shouldn't do it if they're not patient. But I mean, if you're going to be greeted by fanboys, you know, a little kindness costs you nothing. But like, I would be honored. I'd be like, sure, I'll sit here on my ass and I'll hang out with you. And then by 6, I'm gone. You know?
No, exactly. That's what got me mad. Is like you can't. They should be forced to stay there the whole day because the people. I know. I mean, luckily I live in Connecticut.
Or don't do a
Jersey.
Shatner where you reserve it and then you're only there, you know, after booking it for the whole day. So I mean, like you say, misinformation. You're like, you know, the VIP lines are the worst because you don't even get to interact with the guy. And
I never do VIP.
People are always usher, but that's what sucks. Some of those guys, they only do VIP. They want the guys going in and out. I'm like, I legit want to stroke the guy's ego and let him know you did a great job. And whatever.
Yeah. Nope, I agree with you. And luckily for a lot of people I like to meet, they're usually pretty cool for the most part, and a lot of them will talk to you for a long time.
If they are bad, it's probably because their agent has just really pissed them off. But I don't know. I don't like being a part of melodrama. It's just there's already enough of that as it is.
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, some of the, a lot of the bigger stars. Well, that's funny that you've mentioned it because William Shatner's going to be there this year. I'm not going to meet him just because he's only there on Saturday, and I've been there on Saturdays, and it's just a horrible experience. You can't move. It takes forever to get there because on Sunday, not a lot of
people have booked it. Yeah.
So that's why. So he's only going to be there on Saturday. But
yeah, I'm with you. Saturdays, I've stopped doing Texas Frightmare too, just because, you know, pre-COVID, it just seemed like there would always be a surprise guest. And it's like, I didn't see anywhere Ron Perlman on here. Is this a surprise guest? You know?
Oh, did you actually meet him, Ron Perlman?
I didn't, but I saw the other Sons of Anarchy guys were there, and he was in a private room giving a talk, taking questions from an audience. And for whatever reason, they weren't as strict on that one. It's just sometimes if you're just, have you ever gone to a panel and it's like, you've been here so long enough, but it's kind of like when you're in a store and you're like, you know, I just want to shift through here and not even spend much money just because I'm just not liking what I see.
Yeah. No, as I'm talking, I want to show you something. Let's see if I can play it. Cause I met a lot of this guy has such a great sense of humor. Let's see if I can play it. This is. Oh, come on. Wait 1 second. Wait. All right. Wait, hold on. Wait 1 second.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
This is all right. So to give you an idea, I have cerebral palsy. So I just said the guy from Sons of Anarchy is a great sense of humor. I said just be as mean as you can be because he goes, you should see like after he goes, oh man, I'm going to come across as like an asshole, but he's just joking. But you got to listen. I usually have people do bumpers for my show.
Come and take it.
That's I don't know if you recognize it. It's hard to see because there was the glare, but that was one of the guys from Sons of Anarchy. It's actually this guy right here. I don't know if you recognize him.
Hold up, let me see.
It's
tough. Kenneth Johnson, right?
Yeah. So he was
also on the Shield and SWAT.
Yep. And then
fun fact, those are all in the same universe.
Oh really? And then
because remember, there's the one Niners gang.
See, it's hard to tell with the glare, but I got a chance.
I
to
see
meet,
you on the right.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
But they had like some of the more minor players, not in Jackson and all that, not Ron Perlman, but they had some smaller people there, and they were really cool. They were fun.
That's fun. I'm surprised Harold Perrineau or Jimmy Smits haven't been at some of those. It seems like they're kind of that type to do. You know, they're cool with any kind of project. Just show them the bill and show them what it's about, and just be cool about it. Yeah, I mean, you said you went to a taping of one of these shows, I think.
Oh, I went to a taping of the Daily Show. I've been to a taping of late show with Dave Letterman. I've been to a taping of Conan O'Brien when he first started. But Daily Show
around 2014, 2015. I know for sure one of my cousins in California definitely went to a Jon Stewart taping, and she was just guffawing at it. It just was one of those, you can't interact, but it was just very interactive. Just getting to see the skits just live in person, it's just like stand up. It's just like it's just even more surreal.
Yeah. Well, you want one of the funnest shows I ever went to, and you're gonna laugh at this. Years ago, I went to a taping of a Geraldo Rivera show. When you remember, he used to have his talk show. No, but the show was mothers asleep with their daughters' fiancés, and all you can see is me laughing my ass off. People are like, "I see you on TV, you just laugh," and it's just
like Jerry Springer. I mean, dude, I was on an episode of Cheaters, for God's sake, so I get it.
Whoa! I never heard about this one. What happened there? How'd you get in there?
It was hysterical. In 2018, I got to play like a stalker who thought he was an actor and was stealing away a black chick from this other guy who was being cheated on, and I just, it is just as outrageous as what you see.
Wait, how'd you get on that show?
So long story short, my friend who was playing the guy getting cheated on, who does some casual background acting, they disguise it, saying looking for a legit, dating show or something. They disguise the shit out of it. And Alex, the producer, was a hoot because he's like, people actually think this shit is real.
I thought it was. So that was all acting.
Right. If anything, they would use a similar story and everything, but they had to
I'm not surprised. I gotta say that because I'm
just like Pawn Stars and all the other stuff. Yeah. It's like they'll use a version of your name, but they'll change your surname. And it was just, it got to where it's like sometimes they would get death threats from some crazy ghetto people, so they started getting pickier about who they hired to come on. And
that's funny.
He's whispering in your ear, do more of this, do more of that, more insults. And it's a shame that the Clark Gable III, who is the grandson of the famous screen legend, was like overdosed on drugs.
Yeah. So now, were you on there with the first host or second host?
Yeah. Clark Gable III would be the second host.
I didn't realize that was him. I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. Now, who is? I know who Clark Gable is, but who is he? The great grandson and grandson
of Clark Gable.
Yeah, he's a grandson, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's funny. And no, but I'll give you an example. There's I think it's called Antique Roadshow. I was in DC,
oh my god!
And I went to a place, and they
2 a.m. without Phil.
Yeah, we were talking about reality shows, and this guy said that he was asked to be on the show, and they said, "Well, we're going to give you everything, and then when the people come in, just pretend it's yours." He goes, "No, I'm going to use my own stuff." He goes, "No, we don't want your own stuff. We're going to give you everything. When they walk in, they're going to ask for this." And so he refused to be on the show, and I knew. But Cheaters, I thought at least, because I was saying to myself, I said, this show is going to get somebody killed if it was real, and they were really doing it. It's like they're exposing people, and they're going to like either kill the other person or just kill them because they're found guilty of cheating, and just going to kill the wife for cheating on him. I thought but now that's funny. It's all acting. There's not one real person.
Well, this is it. Like the story will be mildly used and changed up, but yeah, I mean, if anything, they would take sometimes real life boyfriend girlfriends, but that was it. Like just.
But they were acting though.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, what was cool about it was a mixture of kind of guerrilla filmmaking. Like they would say, "Hey, go inside," while I, film you on the so-called, spy camcorder in the, in the parking lot, and then let's go to a restaurant which we've reserved, and then have the whole busted squad, which are actual security guards.
That's funny.
People. And it's just so funny, like that, and they are total pros. Like they know how to get you in a headlock or something without actually hurting you. It's just like wrestling. They know their points, that they know their marks, and they hit them on time. And it's just so funny. They're like, and easiest thing in the world, you got to pretend to be ugly to each other, and we'll use the best stick.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, I've known people who've done Jerry Springer, and same kind of deal. Is like it just. I'll tell you a funnier one. My pal Ruby Robledo, her mom and aunt would watch the Judge Judy equivalent of Telemundo.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, she's on there. They're like Ruby, and they've changed her surname. And like she's like, "You're not even married to that asshole on screen." I mean, we thought it was real, and it's just so funny how it's just without fail. It's just like it. You see it on those other court shows as well. It's just like people in the audience or who are on trial are trying to hold back laughter while they're being scolded. It's just.
I tell people that all the time. I said, reality shows are not reality at all. And I said, even if they use real people.
The Bachelor, come on. They didn't actually sleep together. They just.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
even shows like the Kardashians. I'm trying to think of other shows. Do you think that they just walk in there and all this stuff happens? Or Real World was probably one of the first reality shows like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But when there was a writer's strike, they got mad. They're like, this doesn't just happen. We put them in this situation. We make this. We write this.
Teen Mom,
they wanted writing credits.
Pimp My Ride. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they had to make didn't they have to make some kind of compromise with the Emmys?
Yeah.
Can you give us like a primetime Emmy and just not show it on the main show or some shit?
Something like that. Yeah. It was, they did get what they want, or a version of what they wanted.
And it's easy fucking money, dude. You know, if you can get a deal to syndicate it and everyone's watching that shit, man.
I know.
Bank.
Well, I interviewed Ann Sterling, whose father was Rod Sterling, Twilight Zone, and she had it's a great interview. She was such a fun person. And
still love the Karloff one, man.
Oh yeah, thank you. And then she was probably one of my favorites too. She was just so much fun. And it's funny because like going to all these different convention meetings, she's so quiet. And I said, this is gonna be a tough interview.
There's
but
no
she
way.
was just hilarious. Yeah. And Victoria Price, I think you would like too. She was a really good interview. But
really?
the only one I get a chance to interview out of all of that was Bela Jr. I've interviewed Vincent Price's daughter, Forrest's daughter, and Sterling. I want to do Bela. But the reason I bring this up was she had an author on there, and I was talking to him. He wrote tons of books, but he wrote a book on the Twilight Zone. That's why he was on there, and he was her friend. And after she had to go, we kept talking, and he said, do you want to know the reason all these reality shows are so popular? I said, no. He goes, there was a writer's strike, and during the summer they put on Survivor, and they said, oh, this will be like a good summer replacement. The show cost nothing to make. It was a huge hit, and they're like, wow, we really don't have to spend money, and we can get people with sponsors. So that's when that whole reality show took off. I hate it.
Survivor's got to be more violent. Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me when Stephen E. D'Souza talked about how he met a random reality TV producer who was a fan of The Running Man. He's like, I got an idea based on your movie. That show was American Gladiators.
Yep.
It's the same idea, except without the self-awareness. It's just lowest common denominator. And it's interesting how many wrestling documentaries they got now that are just also, just showing, what's behind the curtain. It's been even funnier just seeing all these shameless titans like Sean Diddy Combs and Vince McMahon all being arrested by the feds. It just shows you, there's still a lot of bad boys who were really wrecking a lot of people's lives. You can thank them for creating an industry, but you can also hate them for, promoting a lot of corporate bullying,
Oh yeah.
and other things. And it's just interesting how it's going to be I'm actually looking forward. It's like, I want to see all these new faces emerge and see what happens in a less hostile environment now.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up